Hey guys, welcome back. I have new digs. I didn't realize that my office looked like I was teaching out of a cave. So I moved up to one of the classrooms in Bibbins. I argue that I look much better with low lighting, but hey, here we are. So welcome back. Day 2 of sequences. And as you can tell by the title, today we are focusing on the ones that go up. So ascending sequences all day. You will need handout 20, which is posted to Blackboard. And this lecture will also link up with homework 13. All right, let's get rolling. I want to start just by reviewing what we did on Monday. So sequences, in a nutshell, you have a pattern comprised of a model and 2 or more copies. And if you remember from last lecture, a model is simply just a pair of chords. They exhibit a pattern in their root relationship and also their inversions, and then that is copied 2 or more times in subsequent harmonies. So just to recall the Mozart from last lecture, we had a model in a G major triad in first inversion, followed by a C major triad, and then it was repeated 3 times. I've got 2 of them on here. So you had 3 copies that exhibited the same root relationship and also the same pattern of alternation between a first inversion and a root position triad. So really quickly before we kind of kick off, let's go over the sequences that we did last class. First one, which is also coincidentally the most common, most popular sequence, is the descending 5th sequence. We listened to Autumn Leaves by Johnny Mercer to get an idea of what that sounds like and how it functions. The key things to remember are that you have a root relationship of a 5th. Your model exhibits that relationship. They are both root position triads. And then your copies descend by step from the model. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the root relationships are not always going to be perfect fifths. We saw in Autumn Leaves, we had a diminished 5th in there. That is simply because right now we're working with diatonic sequences, and you know that within a key, there is going to be 1 token diminished 5th. So if you see one, it's fine. That is not atypical at all. So descending 5th sequence was what we tackled first. And then there was also a variant of that sequence where instead of having root position triads throughout, now we alternate between our 6-3. So we have a first inversion triad here, and then a root position triad after. And this is what we saw in the Mozart that I just put on the previous slide. The root movement stays the same. So when we're talking about root motion, I really, really need you to focus in on the difference between your root and your base. The root relationships between these 2 sequences are equivalent. We're still moving roots by 5th. It is the baseline that changes due to the fact that we are now working with first inversion triads alternating against root position. So if any of that seems foggy, just go ahead and pop back to lecture 7.1 and listen to part or all of it for a little refresher. Really quick before we jump into today, homework 13, which is entirely analysis based, there's no part writing, yay, is due on Friday, April 3rd. Like I said, all deadlines are soft, but please try and keep up with these so that you don't find yourself scrambling the end of April to do 15 homework assignments and listen to all of my lectures all at once. My voice gets really annoying after probably 2. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and hop over to your handout. Now, since the last lecture, I did actually watch it, which was terribly embarrassing, but I watched it and realized that the score was way smaller than I anticipated. So I switched to landscape view on the iPad, and I'm hoping that that makes this a little easier for you guys to see. I'm going to zoom in a smidge as well, but leave me messages in the comments or shoot me an email if something is really, really not legible and you're really struggling to read it. Okay, so we are going to take a listen to this Bach prelude. It's short and sweet, so I want you to just give it a listen And maybe as you're watching the score, you're thinking about trying to pick out the sequence. Maybe you're just listening for fun and you can rewind me and listen a couple other times and listen for the sequence. But here it is. Okay, so that's what you have in front of you on your score. So let's give a little bit of time to what we have going on in terms of patterns. So I'm going to pause this, and what I would like you to do is give me a little bit of root and quality. So you can go ahead and stop here. This is the section that we're interested in. But I would like some root and quality. Don't worry about Roman numerals or any of that fun stuff. Once you've found that, I want you to see if you can find a pattern that relates to fifth motion between the harmonies. So I'm going to give you a pause. And once you've got that done, go ahead and pop back on and I'll show you my annotated score. Okay, so go ahead and check what you have against what I have annotated here. I'm really sorry, I'm learning how to write with this stylus, and I feel like my penmanship just like goes down the tubes as soon as you give me an electronic pencil. So I apologize for the chicken scratch. I'm working on it, I promise. Okay, so let's see what you have. So we start out C major. You notice I have the 6-3 in parentheses. You're dealing with an arpeggiating bass line. It's not super important. It occurs on a weak beat. So let's just kind of like file that away. It's not super important for what we need right now. So you've got C major, moves to first inversion, and then G major takes up the rest of the bar. And then in bar 2, we start with D minor. Again, we get a little first inversion triad, and then we move to A minor. Now, already for you eagle-eyed and eagle-eared sequencers, you can see that there's a pattern established, right? So if we're thinking about root motion, we have root movement by fifth, C to G, D to A. It's also really, really easy to see on the strong beats of the left hand. So we have movement by fifth, bar 1, bar 2. Now, we seem to be continuing that pattern when we get to bar 3, right? We start with E minor. We have this little 4-3 suspension there. Don't let that confuse you. E minor for those 2 beats. We actually do stay in root position this time, which is nice. However, our pattern seems to break in the second half of the bar. If you're following along and you're thinking about, okay, what would I be expecting? We went C to G, then we went D to A. I'm expecting us to go E to B. Now, I want you to put yourself in C major for a second and spell a triad, a diatonic triad based on B. What quality do you get? Hopefully, your answer is diminished. If you scroll down to the bottom of this page of your handout, you can see that I actually bracketed off the third measure of this sequence, so the second copy, and notate that it's often skipped. This is to avoid dealing with a diminished triad, and specifically in this instance, a root position diminished triad. So a lot of times that copy will either be entirely skipped, or as we see here, we get the first half of it and then our pattern breaks and we bring ourselves then to a nice little cadence. We've got a 4, a 5, and tonic. So we break up that second copy. I know I made a big fuss last lecture about 2 or more copies. The sequence we're dealing with here, the ascending fifths sequence, A is the least common one. You're not going to see it a lot. And secondly, it is often quite short because of that second copy being problematic. So with that in mind, let's scoot down to your second example. Now, we are actually in the same key, which is helpful for us for right now. And what we're going to see is still an ascending fifth sequence. So everyone's in root position, but we're going to see how this differs from the Bach in how it navigates that second copy and avoiding the diminished triad. So let me play it for you once. I'm sure that most of you know this, probably better than I do, but I'm going to play it for you once so you can get it in your ears, and then we'll talk.
My name is Samuel Seabury, and I present free thoughts on the proceedings of the Continental Congress. Heed not the rabble who scream revolution. They have not your interest at heart. God, tear this dude apart. Chaos and bloodshed are not a solution. Don't let them lead you astray.
Okay, so let's take a look at your score and talk about what's going on. First off, if it was kind of hard for you to hear the bass line, let me just play a little bit on the piano for you. Hopefully I won't knock the computer over with my earbuds. So, and again, I'm sorry if there's a ton of decay. We're working with it. So you're starting here. So we've got C, da, 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 da. And then we go to F. So let's talk about the pattern, how it breaks, and how the navigation is a little bit different than the Bach. So here's our ascending fifth pattern, right? We get it again. Now with the Bach, we saw that we actually started the second copy. We went to the E minor triad and then sort of defected after that. What we end up doing here is we're just going to skip that copy entirely, and let's just jump to the next one. So we completely avoid this guy and just jump right to the next pattern, which is, if we're talking simply root movement, we've got F to C, which continues our fifth established pattern. However, this C over E, if you remember from talks earlier on the semester, is equivalent to saying that it is a C major triad in first inversion. It's a C major triad, but E is in the bass. So what we get there, and if you could find the parallel octaves in that little bit I just played you, I will reward you with probably nothing really, but I'll shout you out on the YouTube channel. So what we end up getting here is a little bit of the 6/3 variant. So if you look down at this variant, root motion remains the same, just like with the descending fifths, right? What is different now is that we are alternating between a root position triad and a first inversion triad. So this last little bit in the Hamilton excerpt, actually, besides skipping the second copy, then we jump to the 6/3 variant just for that little measure. Okay. That's what we've got for any fifth relationship. So if you think about the lecture we did on Monday and today's lecture, we have only dealt with root motion by fifths. There are lots of other intervals. So let's take a second and introduce a couple of other patterns that deal with root relationships that is not by fifth. So take a look at the second page of your handout. We have a nice excerpt by Vivaldi. This is from Winter. I'm going to ask you to do something for me. I want you to actually close your eyes when I play this recording the first time. And I want you to just see if you can hear where the sequence is. So I've got it queued up to right where your excerpt starts, but I want you to just see if you can find the sequence with your ears. So no eyes on the score, give it a listen, and let's see how you do. And then we'll come back and we'll put some eyes on the score. Okay, so Take me, rewind me, listen again while following the score. And now see if you can find the sequence when you've got your eyes on the score. And once you've done that, I would like you to take a second, bracket off the model and the copies, and give me root and quality of them. So model, copies, root and quality of everybody involved in your sequence. Pause me. And then when we come back, we will compare notes. Okay, welcome back. This is what we've got. So if there were actual figure-based continuo written under here, which there was, but I took it out because it was going to make it too easy, you would have one beat of nothing. So right here, you would have no figured bass, and then you would have a 6 here, and then you would have nothing, and then you would have a 6 here. What that is reflecting is the alternation between root position and first inversion triads, which hopefully you found while you were going through this and analyzing root and quality. So let's talk about root movement now. We've got A flat to start. So A flat major goes to F minor. There's our model. Then our copy, we're moving up by step. B flat major goes to G minor. And then our second copy, we do the same thing. C minor, because we're staying diatonic in the key of E flat. C minor goes to A flat major in first inversion. So when we're talking about root relationship, we are no longer in the land of fifths. We have now moved to thirds. So what you have, if you look down, if you haven't looked already, is an ascending 5-6 sequence. When we say 5-6, what we're talking about is if you look at the relationship between the bass and, as I have it notated here, the uppermost voice, you've got, a fifth that then becomes a sixth. So your bass actually stays on the same pitch. Everybody else is shifting, and you go from this fifth to a sixth among, as I have it here, your outer voices. So that's what the label 5-6 is intended to reflect. And as we see in this particular instance, if we're talking about tonal function, we start out on the 4 chord. Remember, Autumn Leaves actually did the same thing. And the sequence itself peters out also on a 4 chord, just in first inversion now. And then that kicks us into, puts us in a position if we want to cadence, to go 5 or 5-7, then to 1. Okay, I saved the best for last. So go ahead and take a look at your last example on your handout. Let's give it a listen first. If you don't know this, this is the catalog aria from Don Giovanni. I'm going to play it for you, play this excerpt for you, and then kind of cut you loose to do some analysis. But let's give it a listen. Okay, so there you go. Before I cut you loose, because A, my computer battery is about to die, so I'm going to plug this in before I lose the entire lecture. And B, I would like you to do some analysis kind of without me around. But before I cut you loose to do that, let me just bring your attention to this plethora of clef changes. They are all over the left hand. So as you're going through and trying to figure out root and quality, you are going to have a really, really difficult time if you don't continue changing the clefs appropriately. So what I'd like you to do, listen to it again and see if you can find the sequence with your ears. Once you have it figured out, bracket it off, give me a model, give me copies, and root, quality, and inversion of all of the harmonies. For inversion, just take the downbeat. I know we have arpeggiations as it's notated there in the piano reduction. Work with downbeat only. The harmonic rhythm is pretty slow. So just downbeats, I think, should suit you fine. So work just with the downbeats. Root, quality, inversion symbol, and then we will come back and we will chat. Okay, welcome back. Let's see what you got. So either eyes or ears hopefully told you that we start out, we establish D major, and we sit there for a couple bars, right? And then at the end of the first system is where we change harmonies and we embark on our sequence. So our model is measures 3 and 4. We go from D major to B minor. One of the reasons I told you to double check the clefs is you will have the wrong inversion symbol if you think that the downbeat of measure 4 is in bass clef. I say that because I definitely did it. So still root position, D major to B minor. There's our model. Second system, we get our first copy. Everybody moves up by step, E minor to C sharp diminished. Second copy, everyone moves up by step again, F sharp minor, D major. And there we are back on tonic, right? We have, again, harmonic net gain of 0. We start on tonic, we round out tonic. And from here, you can jump right back into Roman numerals. Your sequence is over. Now you have to analyze the way we normally do. So this is from the previous system. And then we get 2 very nice and clean TPDTs. So your predominant, you've got a 2, 4, 3, 5, 6, 5. And actually, we just kind of stay on the dominant here. And if you look at what Leporello's doing, he is giving us a whole lot of 5. So we get this sort of extended stay on the dominant. We cadence here, but he's on scale degree 3. It's kind of a little bit of a weak cadence. Let's do the whole thing again so that we can get a nice, strong pack at the end. So we go back, reboot, kind of do the whole thing all over again. There's your 2, 4, 3. This time we get a root position 5, 7. It's got this nice little 4, 3 in the inner voice. And then there is our pack, scale degree 1 in the vocal line. Get a nice cadence to end. So if you're looking down at that last little bit of staff, this is our ascending 5, 6 sequence root position variant. So with the 5th sequences, the root position was kind of the main one, and then we had 6, 3 variants. Now we have a root position variant. So we're looking at, again, third motion between the roots, but this time is actually explicit in the bass line as well. Okay, so that was a lot. That was a lot of sequences. I wanted to get all of the ascending ones kind of nailed out in one day. We have one more day of sequences. I saved the best for last. So we'll have a lot of fun with a couple on Friday. And then we'll do a little bit of analysis just with a new piece that has a sequence, and you're going to be tasked with kind of figuring out which of the ones that you know it actually is. Homework 13. This lecture will help you out. It is analysis only. There's no part writing because we didn't do any part writing. So analysis only for homework 13. Let me know if you've got questions. Hop into my office hours or leave me a comment under the video if you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you guys in a couple of days.